Hello everybody, this is an ongoing series examining the dungeon design in Zelda games. If you're interested, feel free to check out the previous videos in this series, but otherwise, let's hop into it. This episode is going to be a little bit different. Wind Waker sort of flips certain dungeon conventions on its head. As such, I'm not so sure today's video fully counts as an installment of dungeon design in Zelda, but I can't omit it either. In this section of the game, there are story elements and gameplay moments that are too important to me to overlook. So let's just fix that, I guess. Okay, last time we conquered the Tower of the Gods, which revealed this portal in the sea. Going into the portal, we'll find ourselves in the ancient kingdom of Hyrule, which is frozen in time. We can enter Hyrule Castle and complete this sliding block puzzle. I have to mention that this part is one of the game's best moments in my opinion. There is a lot that goes unsaid here, especially for longtime series fans. The portraits on the wall, the stained glass windows, it's all so wonderful. So here in Hyrule Castle, we'll find the Master Sword. It's looking a bit different though. And when we extract it from its pedestal, the castle comes to life. We're forced to defeat all of the enemies in the castle before we can leave, which is one of the game's most difficult combat challenges, pitting us against groups of Darknuts and Moblins all at once. It can get pretty intense. Once that's completed, we can take the boat back up to the surface, and now, with the Master Sword in hand, we can take a return trip back to the Forsaken Fortress where this all started, and finally confront Ganondorf and rescue Errol. So the Forsaken Fortress here is pretty well the same as our last visit. Not much to talk about here in regards to its architecture or thematics that we haven't already discussed. But what I do think is worth discussing is the level of growth for the player and Link himself that our second visit here signifies, and I think it's done in a really fantastic way. Keep in mind that the last time we came here, we had no items, and even our sword was taken away from us. Being unarmed meant that we had to treat this dungeon as a stealth mission, and being spotted by any enemies would result in our capture. We came here with a full crew of pirates, but had to be launched into the fortress on our own in order to even get inside. This time, however, Link has faced a significant amount of conflict and has come into his own as a capable fighter. As such, we can go in absolutely guns blazing. You can use your cannon to blow their defenses into smoke and ash and blow down the door to the fortress and sail right in. Basically, Link is a one-man army at this point, a far cry from the sneaking around in barrels that we had to do before. We'll be entering the dungeon from the same docks as before, meaning we'll want to take the stairs into the plaza in order to make any progress. However, you'll notice right away that the only door is barred shut and the staircase is blocked by these barbed wire barricades. Then we'll immediately get confronted by the dungeon's mid-boss, Phantom Ganon. Now, it's kind of weird to have to fight a mid-boss right at the start of the dungeon, but let's try and think of things this way. We basically already did half the dungeon last time we were here. Now we're simply back to complete the second half of the dungeon. So with that justification in mind, I think it works. Plus, this plaza is a great arena for a boss fight. Now, I love Phantom Ganon. I think he's visually so much more distinct than the Phantom Ganon we saw in Ocarina of Time, and he really fits Wind Waker's art style so well. Just like in Ocarina of Time, he will launch energy balls at us, which we will need to deflect back at him in a classic match of Dead Man's Volley. I know this is a trope that's been done in Zelda before, but honestly, I never get tired of this mechanic. As cool as Phantom Ganon here is, as long as your timing is right, you should be able to take him on easily enough. Just reflect his attack until it hits him, then strike him while he's grounded. He may shake things up by trying to attack you more directly, but even then you should get a chance to parry. Keep at it, and soon he'll retreat. The barred door will open, and we will be rewarded with the dungeon item, the Skull Hammer. Of all hammers in any Zelda game, this is my absolute favorite favorite. The Skull Hammer is enormous, and it just gives you that amazing feeling of overpowered goodness. This is demonstrated to us, the player, right away. We can now crush those barbed wire barricades and will be immediately accosted by mini blins, which we can not only use the hammer to completely flatten, but if you perform a side swing with the hammer, you can send them flying through the air. This is the single most hilarious and satisfying way to kill any enemy in any game I have ever played. They just go pew! I love it. Okay, that aside, if there are any goodies that you missed last time you were here, such as that heart piece, then now is the time to go collect them. Otherwise, we can make our way back up to the prison tower where Errol is being held captive. You can, but don't have to deactivate the searchlights this time, since instead of stealth, we can now go for the whole crushing the skulls and spirits of our enemies approach. What a contrast. You can head through the door or up the stairs, either way works, and in both cases, there are newly placed barricades that you can use your hammer to remove. They have also removed the hanging lanterns that you could rope swing on before, but you can always use the deku leaf to cross the gaps on the upper floors of these interior rooms. Regardless of which route you take, you should find yourself back in this boat room with this door. You can get past the moblins here once again, and then head up the tower exterior. You can choose to sidle along these ledges just like before, or just cheese it across with a leaf. Soon enough though, we'll make it back to this door through which we will see Errol once again. Our reunion is cut short by a certain pirate. Tetra will interrupt our moment here, saying that all along they've been distracting that giant bird while we stormed the fortress. There's some back and forth here, including a moment where Tetra seems to recognize the Master Sword, but when one of the pirates mentions that the bird is coming back, a hasty retreat is to be made, except that we still have to face Ganondorf. So the pirates agree to take Errol home for us while we make our way up. But first, we have one bit of unfinished business. It's boss fight time. Yes, the giant bird who dragged us into this mess arrives, but this time we have grown strong enough to take him on. This is the Helmarok King. From a visual standpoint, I really like the design they were going with here. He's really vibrant and colorful and genuinely fits into the world of the Wind Waker really well. Unlike the last two bosses, from a gameplay standpoint, he's also a far more unique boss fight as well. And he gets two phases to the battle, which are really distinct from each other. The first phase of this fight starts us here with the water rising up to flood this room. Yikes. There's a spiraling path around the room's interior which we'll want to follow up. Meanwhile, the Helmarok King will constantly destroy the wooden sections of the path. While you make your way up, you'll be ambushed by bokoblins as well. My suggestion is just to stay on the move and simply ignore them, since Big Birdo here will actually kill them anyways, and if he doesn't, they'll just drown in the water. If you stay moving and pass them by, you'll make it up pretty quickly without taking any damage. However, if you have trouble, you can use the grappling hook to swing across and get back on track. Once you make it to the top, he'll try to block your path, so you can use your new hammer to just smash him right in the face. They made that feel so good to do. He'll fall into the water, and you can head onwards. Oh, just kidding. Here comes the second phase of the battle. Now on the roof of the fortress, we'll be locked in combat in this small arena. This part is a bit trickier, but damn, I love the atmosphere here. With this tight space and these feathers flying everywhere, there's spikes on all sides of the arena, and Helmy here is a lot more aggressive. He'll try to blow you back into the spikes, peck at you, and take massive swoops at you with his talons. Just hold your ground and try to stay centered in the arena to avoid those spikes. And when he takes a dive at you, you can avoid it by rolling or moving to the side. Once he comes down and tries to peck at you, avoid his beak, and he'll get his face stuck in the ground. So you can once again deliver a blow with your hammer, which will actually crack his mask, and repeat this process a couple of times. Eventually, we'll break the mask entirely, leaving his face open and vulnerable to attack. Now that his face is exposed, when he pecks at you, you can either continue with the hammer or use your sword to inflict damage. And with enough persistence, you'll take him down. He'll die in this super dramatic way with the spotlights, capping off one of the most satisfying bosses to beat in any Zelda game. We can get our heart container as usual and now head up the path path to confront Ganondorf. But it doesn't quite go as planned. He kicks our butt, and when Tetra shows up for the assist, well, he kicks her butt too. You didn't think the big bad of the series would be easy, did you? Seems like we're just about to lose when we get a sudden rescue from the Ritos. Oh, and Valu sets his house on fire. Savage. And that's the dungeon. Again, the Forsaken Fortress has a really different approach to its dungeon design, and I think it works super well. We sneak in here initially at the beginning of the game, incredibly underpowered and unable to take on even minor enemies, only to come back later as a certified badass, literally blowing the door off its hinges and crushing any and every enemy that stands in our way. From a design standpoint, I do feel like there could have been more for us to do on our second visit here, whether it just be more secrets that we couldn't get last time without a certain item that we would now have, or even just hiding a boss key somewhere, forcing us to explore the dungeon thoroughly to get it. But oh well, the dungeon still does its job here wonderfully. It actually reminds me of Hyrule Castle in A Link to the Past, in which you show up at the beginning of the game for a rescue mission, then have to come back later with the Master Sword, tearing through enemies that gave you trouble before, only to realize that we're basically at the game's midpoint, and we can't truly defeat Ganon. It's very well done in both cases. This dungeon in particular really illustrates Link's character growth as well. Yes, he is way stronger than before, but last time we were just here with the goal of simply rescuing Errol and getting out. And now there's a lot more of a load on Link's shoulders that he's taken on. If I had to sum up the feeling of this dungeon in a word, it would be satisfaction. This fortress is the payoff for elements that were teased to us before. Phantom Ganon is freaking cool, love it. All of these moblins, love to destroy them. The mini blins, pew! And the Helmarok King in particular just feels so good to defeat because of how personal it is compared to the other bosses we faced. There's a real rivalry here that really comes to fruition. The dungeon is on the short side, but what we do have here is short and sweet. I love every moment of our second visit to the Forsaken Fortress, and I think it stands as a defining moment for our hero, as we find triumph finally making good on our failures earlier in the game. Even though we couldn't defeat Ganondorf, there's much more to come, of course, and Errol is finally rescued and the Helmarok King finally defeated, meaning that I can now spend way too much time and money at the auction house without having to worry about her. Anyways guys, that's all for this one. I know it's a bit of a short one today, but there's some really good stuff in the Wind Waker still to come. I hope you'll stay tuned. Cheers everybody, bye bye! Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for when the next one comes out. Just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to the lovely people who supported me on Patreon. In particular, those who supported at the cheese tier or higher, which includes Tetra, Brenda, Callie, Justin, and Finley. Thank you so much you guys for the support, and I will catch you all next time. Bye bye!